Hey everybody, welcome back. It is time for questions and answers. I put a post the other day on YouTube and a bunch of you asked me questions. I got a few from Instagram as well. So this is something I would actually like to start doing. Maybe not a weekly series, but I would like to add it in on some sort of a regimen, maybe bi-weekly, something like that, to where you guys know to send in questions and I will answer them on here for everybody to hear. Now, as most of you know, I try to get back to as many people as I can in the comments, both on Instagram and on YouTube, and answer questions. Usually they're specific to that video, but I wanted to do some general overall questions and answers and where you can ask me anything. Ask me something as a police officer, or ask me as a regular person, however you want to do it. You can ask me about anything. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below on this video, and what I'll do is designate some of the stuff from this video to add to the next one. With that being said, let's get into it. All right, the first question from Administrator Mr. Starr. Have you done a felony stop? Yes, I have. I've both been the primary car and part of numerous felony traffic stops in my time as law enforcement. They are fairly common, believe it or not. If you've been doing it for any amount of time, you're gonna have been a part of that. And so yes, I have been. All right, then another question from Chase P, which is gonna go right along with that felony stop, as he asks, what is the difference between a felony stop and a regular traffic stop? What the difference is, when you're doing a normal traffic stop, that's going to be based on a general traffic infraction. Maybe they ran a stop sign, they ran a red light, tag light out, didn't use their turn signal, something specifically just for a driving infraction. No big deal, normally everyday stuff. What a felony traffic stop is when you are pulling over a car that you have reason to believe has been used in the commission of a felony, or there is the suspect of a felony or a wanted person of a felony inside that vehicle. Typically, they're going to boil down to something where the car was actually used as part of the crime, where we've had what has come out as kidnappings or abductions. Somebody gets seen pulled into a car, they get a description of that car out, we see it matches the tag. That's a case where you're going to pull that car over and you're going to conduct a felony traffic stop on that vehicle because it was involved in the commission of a felony. Another real common one that you're going to do most on that is stolen cars. You might be driving down the street, you run the tag, boom, that car comes back as stolen. That is going to be a felony traffic stop because there is an active felony going on that vehicle is related to, and that's when you're going to make that kind of stop. And that's where you see several officers. Usually we're going to call it out, we're going to follow the vehicle for a while, you're going to get 3, 4, 5 guys with you, and you're not going to approach the car. You're just going to be like what you see on TV. You give them verbal commands, you order them out of the car to come back to you, get on their knees, so on and so forth. So that's going to be the difference between those two kinds of traffic stops. All right, so the next two questions both revolve around doing ride-alongs. Ashley Hack, I hope I said that right, asks, what shouldn't you do on a ride-along? When you're going on a ride-along, the idea is for you to be there to learn about law enforcement or see what we do. Even though I like to make light of what we do, and a lot of the social media officers do because we try to bridge that gap, there's a very serious aspect to our job, and something that we as officers are going to frown upon if we have somebody jump in the car with us is somebody who is not taking it seriously. So if the first question out of your mouth is, have you ever shot anybody? Or, hey, do you think we'll get in a chase tonight? Something like that, that's just really, and I don't mean to be mean saying this, but it's an immature thing to say. That's going to come off very, very badly to the officer, and we're immediately going to think, you're not taking this seriously, this is just a game to you, you've come to just see if something crazy is going to happen, and that's that. So that encompassing my suggestion would be, you wouldn't want to ask anything that really would be crazy, wild, oh, I saw it on cops kind of thing. You would want to ask normal basic questions, things that you are interested in about the profession, and try and do it in as a professional manner as possible. I would say in the beginning, just get a feel for the officer, maybe, get a half hour into the ride along, ask some maybe general questions about the area, but then see if you guys click or not before you start maybe digging deeper into that sort of thing. So JM3, he asked, what do police officers actually think about ride-alongs? And are they out of obligation or volunteer? Now, I can't speak for other agencies, but at my agencies, we have a ride-along list. So an email gets sent out periodically every couple of months to update this list, and they ask officers if they're willing to be on what's called the ride-along list. And what that means is when somebody applies to go on a ride-along and they go through the approval process and can go, they will send out an email to this group of officers who are all on the eligibility list and give the background of the person. Are they a student? Are they a reporter? Are they whatever it is? And they'll ask for somebody to take that person. Now, a lot of times in that email, they'll also say, hey, this person is available on, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They want to ride day shift. So then like somebody like me, that cancels me out because I don't work day shift. And that way people step up and take it from there. Basically, the people who are not on that ride-along list typically don't want to take riders. There are a lot of guys that don't. We are creatures of habit. We get in the car by ourselves and we just do our thing. We have our routine. We have where we go and, get our soda at the beginning of the day or maybe our coffee, and then you go catch up on reports and you have your routine you get to do at your own pace. You get to drive where you want to go. You don't have to entertain anybody or talk to anybody. And a lot of guys like that kind of privacy and they don't want a stranger riding around in the car with them. And then you have guys like me who want to bridge that gap between the citizens, who enjoy teaching people about stuff. And so if you're coming to do a ride along for any level of a legitimate reason, even if it's just to see what we truly do on a day-to-day basis, you don't necessarily have to be interested in law enforcement or going to school or anything like that. I will gladly take somebody like that and let them experience it. Just like anything in life, you're going to have different personalities. Some guys want to, some guys don't, and that's why we have the mix-up and we end up having, enough people to take on the responsibility to do it. All right. Next question is from Kyle Moss. He asked, what is the difference between a felony and a misdemeanor? Kyle, real simply, you have certain levels of crimes and they have, I'll describe it as an entry-level version, and that's usually the misdemeanor. There's lower penalties. It's not as severe of a crime. The punishment for it, what the max punishment can be, only goes up to a certain point. A felony is typically all of those same crimes have an enhanced version. For example, we have battery, which is hitting somebody, unwanted touch. If I walk up and I smack you in the face, minor injuries, no big deal, nothing else to it, it's a misdemeanor. Max sentence that it can, hold is, and I don't know, so I'm not gonna quote it, but let's say up to a year in jail. Now, if I come along and I hit you with a baseball bat in the kneecap, well, now I've enhanced that misdemeanor charge to a felony because one, I've used a weapon, I've caused serious injury, and the punishment and consequences for that are now much greater. So now you could do maybe a maximum of 3 years in prison. Again, I'm just throwing numbers out. That's not the specifics, but that's just to get the idea across to answer this question. So most crimes out there have a low end and a high end depending on if there's other circumstances to it. Now you also have certain crimes like kidnapping, sexual battery, burglary. Those are felonies flat out. There's no misdemeanor version of it. They're just straight up felonies and that's it. So that's another way that you can classify them. Usually your minor crimes, criminal mischief, vandalism, small crimes are going to be misdemeanors, and then some of the other more serious ones are going to be felonies immediately. Ethan Porter asks, if you could go back in time, would you serve in the military before becoming a law enforcement officer? Ethan, that's one of those ones it's hard to say, hey, what would I have done, the road not traveled? I would honestly say no. The way I fell into this career and the way it worked for me worked. It worked perfectly. I did well with it. I learned it quickly, and I'm good at it with the background that I have of owning my own business and working in the public service industry for a few years and everything, and knowing how to talk to people. And that's one of the biggest things about this job is being able to just interact with the public and having some basic common sense and street smarts. In one of my videos, you may have watched it about military transferring to police. When you have raw candidates that have no experience before, typically your military people do catch on faster, and it's because during their time in the military, they've had that interaction, they've had high stress situations, they've had to talk to people, they've had to give orders, they've had to take orders, things like that. So they do a little better than the candidates with no experience, but it's not a given. So again, in my case, it worked fine for me and I didn't have any issues. So with that being said, I'm happy the way I did my stuff on the front end. So I would probably say no, as best I can answer that question. All right, now I've had several questions about this along the way, and I'm going to address it in one foul swoop because it's a pretty simple answer, and it's I don't know. This one's from Austin Coates, and then I have another one from Aaron Davis. Aaron Davies does. Both of them are from out of the country. One is Canada and another one is in the UK, and they've asked me what are my thoughts on their policing compared to policing in the US. And the problem, guys, is I just don't know. I really don't know anything about the police in other countries. I've just seen random news clips here and there. I know some of the places, like over in Europe, they don't carry guns on a normal basis. Like, they have special units are the only ones that carry guns. Other than a few very limited things like that, I just don't know anything about the agencies in those other areas, so I really can't speak on it. So I'm sorry about that. T-Man21 asks, would you ever consider getting into the canine field of police work? There again, that's one of those things. Hard to say if I had it to do over again. It's not something that I was drawn to earlier on in my career, and where I'm at now it would be a little more difficult to get into, and honestly just because of where I'm at in life and the requirements that you have to have and do to be able to maintain the animal. It lives at your house. We have a new baby on the way. I have a little too much going on in life. It wouldn't really be a good fit for me. I do work with those guys. I've been on, numerous canine tracks over the years, and it's fun, but they work. They really, really work. They train and they train and they train. So it's a lot of work. It's hard, and I respect them a lot. For where I'm at right now, it really doesn't fit for me. At the time when it would have maybe been easier for me, it didn't really fit for me back then either, which is why I didn't do it back in the day. So for me, I'd have to say no, but it is a great division, and if you are energetic and like animals and want to train and want to run and do that stuff, it can be a very interesting unit to be in. All right, so this question is going to have to do with the CCW, carrying a concealed weapon, from Days 1. Sorry, I'm butchering a couple of these names. Basically, in a roundabout way, the question is asking, can I carry a firearm if I'm riding a bicycle? What that's going to boil down to is if you have your CCW, your concealed carry weapons permit, I think is what it stands for, then yes, you could. Because the idea is you're carrying it on you. It should be tucked away out of sight, so it doesn't matter if you're riding a bicycle, a scooter, a moped, a car, whatever it may be, you're carrying that weapon on you. I know you can carry a gun in a vehicle as long as it is enclosed in a case with a lid on it. I've never run into a case on a bicycle where somebody has had a case on there. I would honestly have to look it up, but I feel if your bicycle had a closed compartment on it, some sort of rack on the back or basket, something with a lid, and the gun was completely encased in it, you would be fine in that case too. The main thing is if you have your CCW and you can carry a concealed weapon, then you're good to go as long as it's on your person and concealed the way it should be. So yes, it is something that you could do. All right, so John Cena asked me a question, which I'm pretty sure it's not the wrestler, even though that's what his little picture shows. Can male police officers have long hair? Is it allowed? Well, I'm actually growing my hair out right now, so we're gonna find out. All kidding aside, basically this is gonna boil down to each agency's policy and procedure. There's an outline in there that specifically says what you can and can't have, what you can and can't wear. As far as hair goes, if I remember the last time I read the policy, is for men, I believe it can come down to the bottom of the ears as long as it's manicured. It's very uncommon that men in law enforcement have longer hair, so I don't see it. I don't know what exactly you could or couldn't get away with if it was longer and you pulled it up and it was like in the little bun on the top. I don't know if that would be okay or not. Again, that's really going to boil down to individual agencies' policies and what they do and don't allow. Buck Mira Maine has 2 questions for me, and they couldn't be further apart from one another, so I'm going to just dive into both of them. Is it okay to ask for another unit when you pull someone over for safety? Is that allowed? Yes, of course. Anytime we do anything, if we check out with a person, we make a car stop, make a bicycle stop, any of that, if there's something we don't like about the situation and we want another officer there, absolutely. We have backup for a reason. It's there at your disposal if you need it, so you just get on the radio and you ask for another unit and they'll come stand by. So yes, absolutely easy to call for another unit. It's very, very common. Now, for the other part of his question, are bisexual men and women allowed on the force? Yes. I'm not sure why in 2018 somebody would need to ask that, but yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah, there's no discrimination for anything like that. Basically, this profession is one of those things where it doesn't matter whether you're a man, woman, gay, straight. If you can do the job and you can perform, then that's all that matters, and that's what we're there to do. So yes, that is absolutely fine. All right, here's a question from Free Lyrics. What type of exercise should I do to get prepared for the academy? Free Lyrics, here's what my suggestion is, and I talked about it recently in a vlog I did when I went to Georgia. It wasn't one of my patrol vlogs, but I went hiking for the first time. In that video, I talk a little bit about it, that you don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to sling hundreds of pounds of weight around or do anything crazy. If you are just out and active, it is going to help you. All of this, again, is going to boil down to your individual physical fitness level wherever you're at. If you are overweight and you can't run, you can barely speed walk, then that would be an area where you want to focus on that. You want to be able to jog and run a little bit. I would say just get out, be active, and do some weight training and a mixture of cardio. That would probably be ideal. That's what I do. I do a half and half of cardio and weight training at this point. I'm not trying to get huge. It's not going to happen. It's good to have the basic strength, but you want to be nimble as well. I try to keep a happy medium right down the middle of what works the best for me. G-Man P asks, what is the difference between a police officer and a deputy sheriff? Well, I'm going to answer this by telling you to go watch my video that I made, police versus sheriff. So I'll try to link that in here, but if you're watching this, I made a whole video on it. Go watch that, and that should clear it up for you. All right, I'm going to end this off with this question from Awesome Suckerball 1. They ask, what is the best part about being a police officer and the worst? For me, one of the best things about being a police officer is the fact that I'm out there in the world available to help people if they need it. And I realized a long time ago that I'm not going to save the world. I'm not going to fix major problems, but every call I go on is a problem for somebody else. They've called the police because there's something they cannot handle on their own and they need assistance at whatever level it is. And the fact that I'm able to go there and do that for them, even if it is a band-aid for the day or the week, whatever it may be, I enjoy that a lot. I get satisfaction out of that. And over the course of my career, I have had a few legitimate calls where I have genuinely been able to really help somebody, get them out of a situation, get them to a better place in life, and followed up with them, later on down the road and seeing the difference that it made in their life. Not to sound cheesy or anything, but something of that caliber, even if you do it once in your career or twice in your career, that's something that you just can't put in words, the feeling that you get from doing that. And it's an amazing thing to be able to give back to somebody that's less fortunate than me, that can't handle stuff on their own. So for me overall, that is one of the best things about the job. There's tons of other perks involved. I mean, I show you pictures from my car and I say, there's my office view. And it's true. I'm surrounded by glass in my car. I've got a window view everywhere I go. I can sit down by the bridge and look at the water. I can drive around, watch the sunset. There are a lot of really cool things about this job that people take for granted, and they're like the little hidden things. If you don't take the time to stop and think about it, you kind of forget, and they get lost in the mundane stuff that we do every day. Now, as far as the worst part, I would have to say it's the fact that there are a lot of people out there that do not like us. You can't take it personal because they don't not like Mikey Mo. They don't know me. They just know that I'm a guy in a uniform and they see me as a representative of the law, and they just don't like that. For whatever reason it may be. It just could be an anti-government person. It could actually be a criminal. Who knows? But they don't like it. And that's it. There's no change in their view. There's no swaying any of that. They just don't like us. And then when you go to the extreme level, there are people out there that are willing to do us harm purely for the fact that we are law enforcement officers, plain and simple. There's countless stories out there of officers being ambushed. They're sitting in their car, minding their own business, playing on their phone, doing nothing, even cop related. Somebody walks up, shoots them in the head, and they're dead. And that's purely because they're a cop. That person doesn't know anything about them, doesn't know if they have a family, doesn't know if they're a nice guy, a funny guy, a mean guy. It doesn't matter. They just see them as the law. They don't like it, and they're willing to do that person harm. So I would have to say that's the worst part about this job, is the fact that putting on that uniform every day puts you in that limelight and in that potential. I don't want to hear people in the comments, oh, you know what you signed up for. You're right, I do know what I signed up for, and I'm not complaining about it, but that is just one of the extreme negative parts of the job, and I think it needs to be spoken about because there are a lot of people interested in this career that maybe don't think about it. It is potentially dangerous. Sure, I go about my day-to-day routine with no issues. I have a good time, it's safe, but the mere fact that it's possible is something that needs to be considered, and it's out there. And so that's probably, I would say, the worst part potentially of the job. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I got to one of your questions in there. I tried to cover as many of them as I can. I know a few of them I probably lumped together because I had several people ask the same question. So hopefully one of yours, even if I didn't name you by name, was in there and I got you the answer you're looking for. If I didn't, leave them in the comments below or something else that you want to hear. Again, cop related, personal life related. I'm an open book. Throw it in there. If I can, I'll answer it. So if you guys enjoyed this and you want to see any more content like that and you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel. I try to put out videos weekly as of right now, and depending on when I finish a few of these projects, if we could start doing more than once a week, I'll aim for that too. So in the meantime, if you want and see some of the day-to-day stuff I do at work, follow me on Instagram. The link is in the show notes below, and I'll put the name in here. And like I said, when funny things happen, if it's something I can share with you guys, I throw it on my story. And I want everybody to know that all the questions you send in for this, both on Instagram and on YouTube, I read all of them. Like I said, even if I don't get back to you personally, I read every single thing that you guys send to me, and I want you to know how much I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. You guys are so positive. You're encouraging with all of your love and support, and I just want you to know that I appreciate it, and I love you guys very much for it. All right, so until the next time, I want you guys to take good care of yourself and stay safe out there.